Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والعاقبة للمتقين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So I got a comment a couple days ago that one of the brothers, he asked, he said, well, one thing I'm curious about your journey towards Islam was there anything that you were not aware of before reverting and then came to Islam and found out about and were maybe shocked by or found uncomfortable? Perhaps even something that played a role in your conversion that turned out to be false or misrepresented. Things like obligation of jihad under Khalifa, apostasy laws, rulings regarding dealing with non-Muslims in Dar al-Harb, or warfare, rights of women, etc. How did you deal with it or overcome it? And this is actually a great question, and something that, of course, as a new Muslim coming into Islam, these are things that a new Muslim can be expected to learn. You know, whether or not he was looking to learn about it or not, he's going to come across it, and this is without a doubt something that is important for people to, like, be aware of. And of course, there was a basic concept when I came into Islam, and this is the concept that every Muslim should have. Basically, Allah is all-knowing. Allah knows what's best for His people, and Allah calls us to obey Him. And there should be that basic comprehension that even if I don't understand why Allah prescribed a certain thing, that doesn't mean that I have a choice in the matter. You know, I need to obey Allah, whatever Allah says. Sami'na wa ata'na. Like, we hear and we obey. And so this is important, that someone has this basic understanding that Allah knows what's best for His people, and even if I don't think that this would be the right thing, like, I'm just a person, I'm just a human, I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes, and even the smartest people, or you think like the most brainy intellectual people that try to come up with a system of governing mankind, they come up with a system that's ultimately flawed. And so, of course, like, back in the day, I read the dialogues of Plato. And in the dialogues of Plato, of course, he has Plato's Republic, which is basically Plato coming up with this, or Socrates, if you want to look at it that way, coming up with this ideal society that would be the ideal way that society should be run. And so he brings up all these ideas, and with his logic, he comes to this conclusion: the society should have this type of people, and these are the people that should make the decisions, blah, 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 blah. And when you look at it, this has never been put into practice. And if it was put into practice, you would find all kinds of problems in it. And of course, like, this is Socrates or Plato, of the brightest minds of his time. And you'd see that this is, like, it's a fantasy. It never could actually come into being. And if it did, how would it ever last? And this is something we can see with all kinds of different things. But of the most miraculous things of Islam is the Sharia itself. There is a wisdom behind every single thing that comes in the Sharia, and whether or not your finite little brain can fathom it or not, there is a wisdom behind it. And for the person who ponders it, they will find that there's infinite wisdom behind every single law. And the laws aren't just thrown about, like, as with humans. We make a judgment call, and we draw the line here. But Allah drew the line so fine that everyone's rights are taken into consideration, and that no one's rights are taken from them without, like, of course, without them taking someone else's rights. Of course, if someone goes over the line, then of course there's going to be consequences. And so this was, say for example, the Apostasy Laws. When I was probably a few months into my Islam, I heard about the Apostasy Laws. I was like, so if someone, this is not a, like, you come into Islam, it's not just like you can come in and leave as you please. No, it's like, okay, so someone who leaves, then they should be killed, because the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man baddala dinahu faqtuluh," like, whoever changes the religions, like, leaves the religion of Islam, then he should be killed. And of course, there's consensus on this issue, so there's no way for someone to interpret it otherwise. No, this is the consensus. If someone changes their religion, they leave Islam, then they get the death penalty. And of course, this is to be taken in consideration with, like, the reality of the situation, whether or not people are upholding the Sharia in the community, or the community, if someone is going to carry out this law, is it going to create more harm? And of course, this is something that you can talk about, when should it be applied and whatnot, and what situations it would be. But the general rule is there in Islam, and it's a part of Islam, and it has consensus on it. And in theory, this is something that would be taken into consideration. So when I first heard about this, I was like, oh, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like this seems pretty hard, and so I went to one of the people that was in Dawah, and I asked him about this. He's like, it's kind of, he didn't give me a straight answer, to be honest. He gave me kind of like, people back in the day. He gave me wisdom behind it. He said people back in the day, when they came into Islam, they were like, Islam was an actual country. As in, like this was something that they were entering into the fold of Islam, and Islam was not just a religion that someone was entering in, but it's also, you're entering into an actual like a body of believers that is also a warring nation, like a nation that is defending itself and establishing itself. So someone if they were to come in and then they were to leave, this is like treachery to the nation itself. And so this treachery, which is treason, of leaving it after someone had come in, then when they leave it, they would have been creating treason when they left. And so this is kind of the wisdom behind it. And while this is right, at the same time, he was saying, like, in this day and age, this isn't really applied. Nobody's gonna go run after someone who came into Islam in America and then they decided to leave Islam. No one's gonna go after them and go hunt them down. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, because there's that. But the law is established, and like this is kind of the thing the Dai didn't necessarily give me, that the law was firmly established, but rather he was just kind of like, nobody does it. And while this has truth to it, like, the law is established. But what came to me after thinking about it for a little bit, at first, of course, when something new comes, I'm like, okay, Allah knows best. I don't understand it, but how am I gonna like think about this in the future? It made me realize Islam is not a game. Islam is a serious matter, and like religion is not something that you just go to church on Sundays and then at the end of it you all just go your own way. And this is not this like Islam is a serious matter, and worshiping Allah is serious, and like people need to understand the seriousness of the rights of Allah. Like when someone comes into Islam, they've seen truth for the first time, if they haven't been into Islam before, but they've been given truth on a platter, and then for them to reject this truth, this is a severe form of like ungratefulness, of kufr, of ungratefulness to what Allah has given this person. And while what the Dai said has a lot of weight and truth to it, and also if we look at some of the time that this came in, there was a lot of Jews that would that basically they would come in. They said, let's play with the religion. We're gonna come into Islam, and then at the end of the day, we're gonna say, oh, we left Islam. We saw that this was stupid. And so then this is of the other wisdom, that when they would come in and play this, that they knew if they came into Islam, there's no jumping in and out. So if they were a Jew beforehand, then they came to an agreement on the like foundation that they're a Jew, and they're going to come to agreement with the Muslims that are in power, and they come to agreement, this is fine. But if they come into Islam and then they leave, now they're going to be held accountable for their leaving of Islam, and this stopped them from that playing around with the Deen, trying to show people and this would be mentioned in the tafsir of the ayah in Ali Imran, where they say that we believe at the beginning of the day, and then the last part of the day that they would leave it, so the other people will turn from their Deen, and so this is of the like wisdoms between with the apostasy laws and whatnot. And of course, this at the end of the day, like I realized that this is a serious matter. And also when I was coming into Islam and before Islam, I pretty much was looking to try out what was out there, what was available, because I had been in Christianity as a kid, and then I tried different versions of Christianity, ran around from the different versions of Christianity. Then I ran into Buddhism, tried Buddhism with Christianity. Then I tried like the New Age kind of mindset of believing that like, it's like pantheism. I tried that pantheism, wahdatul wujud thing, think that all is one and whatnot. And then coming into Islam is not something I realized. I didn't come into Islam for a long time just because I realized that it was incompatible. Like Islam is complete, and you can't just mix this with other things. And so when I did come into Islam, I realized that I had to leave these other things, and it's not something I can mix. Like Buddhism and Christianity, okay, I can meditate and I can still be a Christian. There's no problem with that. And yeah, there's some aspects of Buddhism maybe that go against some types of Christian, of like the some beliefs of Christianity, but like, you know, you can mix them. You can mix them because it's like Christianity in and of itself doesn't bring a Sharia, and it doesn't bring a whole, like, yeah, people have beliefs, but everyone believes what they want to believe, and at the end of the day they call themselves Christians and whatever, you know. But like Islam is very, it's set. It's set, and nobody, and there's no room for it to be messed with, such as like bringing all the religions in as one religion. So coming into Islam took a bit of me saying, you know what, I'm going to set aside all this other stuff. I never found the truth in it. So then coming into Islam, I did that. But it's not something that maybe at the beginning I was kind of trying it out. Then I realized there's no trying out Islam. This is something that you come into it kaf, and so you come into it all the way with all of yourself. And this was like the most beautiful thing for me, and gave me the most peace, and it got rid of all of the issues that were previously haunting my mind. And so then to see that this is a religion that requires dedication, and there's no leaving the religion, I was like, okay, and this is more incentive for me to really solidify in my faith and to learn the deen and whatnot, and realize this is a real religion with real consequences, you know. And this is not just real consequences that like are to be expected in the afterlife, but also there's real like ahkam that applies to someone when they come in, and then if they were to leave after coming in, then there's consequences that could be put to play. Of course, with this is in the proper situation, because nobody's going to be running around like murdering people in the West because they came in and came out. But at the same time, there's a serious nature to the religion, that this is a part of the religion. And if there was a set up khilafah and whatnot, if there was a set up Islamic government and a government system, then this would be a part of it. And so, and then also the other things that came up, as the brother mentioned, was like jihad. And jihad was something that it made sense to me, like that if someone believes in something, they're going to fight to protect it. And if you believe in Allah, and you believe in the last day, and you believe that this is the way that Allah created mankind to live, then in this case you want to establish this way in the dunya. You want to establish this way in this earth. And this is ultimately, like, jihad is not something that's particularly to Muslims. This is something that the West, you see them waging jihad all the time for their secular ideology. They want democracy, so they wage jihad in this certain land, so that democracy, which is their religion, like it's their belief, they think that this is the way that people should live, so they fight to defend this way that they believe people shouldn't live, and that they believe these are people's rights to do things. So they fight for this, and they go into other lands and wage war against them until their ideology is spread and established firmly in this. And so this is a type of jihad. And so what is the difference between this jihad and the jihad that is fighting to establish the Sharia, which is establishing the religion of Islam in a solid form? What's the difference between this and that? It's the same. It's just this person believes in God, and this person believes in their secular nonsense that they came up with their own man-made reasoning. So, and of course, like the person who believes in Allah, and they believe in the last day, and they believe that that Allah gave them the path to falah, like of najah, like that this person is given the path to success in this life and the next, then of course he's going to establish it. And this comes from iman normally. And so there's no problem with this. Of course, there's ways how people should do it properly and in the right ways and whatnot. And this is something we can talk about. And like people not doing it in rash ways or in ways that goes against the essence of the Sharia. Of course, this is one aspect. But the fact that jihad is a part of Islam just shows that Islam is a real deal. And Islam actually has the guidance for all of mankind. And in every single aspect of life, it has guidance. And this is not something like when I was a Christian, I read the Bible through all the way, and jihad is in it. So it's like what's the difference between like the Sharia that Moses was given and that Joshua was given to go conquer land and establish establish their religion. It's there, this is the same thing. You have to make room for this religion to be established, and without that room, then you're going to have to fight for this right. That makes sense. And this was something that, of course, coming with the belief that Allah is real and Allah, what He said, was coming from wisdom, then of course, I accept that this is just a political battle at this point, whether someone believes in Islam or they believe in their secularism. All of this is just political and also religious ideology that is mixed together. Even saying that there should not be a mix of politics and religion. This in and of itself is religious belief, because you're coming to this with belief in and of yourself that there's no right for religion to play any rights in politics. This is a belief in and of yourself. So you're actually putting your own religion of non-religion into politics by saying that there should be no religion in politics. So and that comes from a fundamental belief that religion has no place in politics. And of course, I can understand why people have come to this conclusion, seeing the Christian differences in Christianity with the Catholic forms of religious power and whatnot, and seeing the corruption in this. So people run away from this and they go to secularism. But if you see that Islam is the same as it was, and if it is the true religion, let's just say for an instant, this is the true religion, then what's the problem with it running itself and running the people that believe in it? There's no, this is the same as anyone wanting to run any society according to their beliefs. Islam has a set of beliefs to run the society in totality, and the only way to run it in totality is to establish it as a governmental form of power. That is something that makes sense, and it's something that, whether you're on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, it's jihad. People are fighting for what they believe, and if you believe in this aspect of freedom, you're gonna fight for it. And if you believe in this aspect of worshiping Allah and establishing His deen in the earth, then you'll fight for it. And this, of course, the fighting comes in ways that is wise and is not causing more harm than it is creating good. But this is something that is established, and this makes sense. Also, the other one of rights of women. The women's rights is something that, of course, where do women's rights come from? Is the rights of a woman to be a man? Is this a woman's right to be a man? She's not made like a man. She's different than a man. She does not have the feelings of a man, and the man does not have the feelings of a woman. So they're all different. And can she work like a man and all these other things? And I went through, I was in Evergreen State College, and I went through a class that was all about gender identity and whatnot, which basically drove me insane. And at the end of it, when I remember reading in the Quran, just the translation of the Quran, a man is not like a woman. I was like, yes, highlighter. I was like, this is right. I was like, I just need someone to say it I just needed to hear this from a trusted source. I was like, totally, a man is not like a woman. These are two different beings. You can't say that they're equal and then that they should have the equal things. And if you're going to say that they're equal, then what's the problem of a man being a freeloader? And getting a wife that's a businesswoman, and then just him just sitting around on the couch all day, not doing anything, just sitting there, not contributing whatsoever, and expecting the bills to be paid. The women do this, so why can't the man do it? And when you have this man doing this man's not a man, where's his manhood? He's not even providing for the family, and if it's a shared relationship between the two, then who is the one that's going to take care of the emotional aspects of a house that needs to be taken care of? And this ultimately will result in the destruction of the community, and also of the family life, if a woman is not around for the kids or for the husband. Say maybe the husband is not coming home to a woman. Of course, there's going to be hardships, but the fact that the woman is given rights, but her rights are in one way, and the rights of a man are in another way. This makes sense, and when someone ponders it, they really see that Allah Allah is the creator of mankind, so He knows what mankind needs most. And Allah, when He says that, like, the woman, her right is to be taken care of in her house, and she should have everything that she needs given to her in the house, and she never, like, her money is her money, nobody takes it away from her, and she has the right to be spent on. Or like she, if she's married, then her husband has to pay for her, has to pay for her food, has to pay for her living, like for her house, has to pay for clothes, and all of these things that are her rights. And then, of course, he has rights from her, and also for her to dress properly. Like, I grew up in a Christian background that was more fundamental independent Baptist, and they had a dress code. Like, basically, they had a dress code where the woman was never allowed to wear certain things. Like, in their dress code, they made it up. Like, they make it up at a certain point. That they're not coming from, like, they understand in the Bible that there's certain aspects of modesty that are mentioned in the Bible, so they take this. And then what they basically said was, like, the woman, she can't show anything more than 4 fingers. You have 4 fingers from the sternum and 4 fingers here. Nothing should come down below here. And also for, like, this, they have to make sure that there's actual sleeves. And I was like, okay, actual sleeves, so there's no, like, tank tops and, like, any cleavage or anything. And then also they had another rule, which was for and that the woman, if she went down on her 2 knees, then the dress that she wore needed to touch the ground. Nothing could come up above that. So if she went down on 2 knees, then the dress would never be above the ground. It would be touching the ground. So they had these basic principles that they had, and also that a dress is for a woman and that pants are for men. This was a basic principle that I grew up with. And so later, coming out from that particular type of Christianity, then seeing the rest of, and also in that type of Christianity, we had, like, there's no hugging, there's no touching women. A man should not touch a woman. And so we had this basic no touch policy between women, which is actually very nice. And it kept things at bay, and then coming out from that and seeing what happens when you get rid of these, lines get really blurry and things get really nasty, and like, I don't know where the morals of Christianity went. I knew people that, like, they'll run around with their wife is wearing this little, like, it's boxers for me, and this is nasty. And, like, how can someone be showing off all of this and then expect this is to be their right? And Allahumma musta'an. And so, of course, Islam gives the woman her rights and also protects the society by making sure that the woman is dressed properly. Like, she's dressed properly. The man can see whatever he wants from her. Like, his wife can see whatever, like, the man can see whatever he wants from his wife when it's between him and her. And inside of his home, okay, they can dress in a normal fashion in front of each other. And then when they come out in front of the public, this is different, because this Allah takes into account all of the needs of the human and the human society. And Allah knows if you have women that are running around in a very scantily in like a scantily dressed fashion, then this is going to create problems in society, which is going to create infidelity. It's going to create it's going to turn up a bunch of lust, and it's also going to destroy the connection between a man and his wife. Because when a man is constantly looking at something that he can't have, then when he comes back to his wife, what is he going to be thinking about? He's going to be thinking about that thing that he can't have, instead of appreciating the beauty of his wife. And of course, someone who actually tries lowering their gaze and not looking at the women around them, and then having their relationship with their wife, they will see that a beautiful wife is satisfactory for a man that doesn't look at all these things around him. But if a man is constantly looking at everything that's around him and is bombarded with sexuality and, like, the exposure of women and their beauty from every single type of woman and whatnot, this will ultimately destroy him from the inside, and it'll destroy his satisfaction with his beautiful wife. Like, his beautiful wife, that he married her because she was beautiful. And then when he starts looking at everything else out there, he just starts the comparison, and it destroys his family. And ultimately, you wonder why there's so many broken up marriages. And don't even talk about the marriages, because people don't even want to get married anymore, and those are broken up even more. So this only makes sense. And when I was before coming into Islam, I wanted to start a family, of course, and when I saw Islam, I saw that if I married a Muslim woman, like I will have a family structure that's set up and everyone has rights in this. This was a beautiful thing about Islam for me. Like even before coming into Islam, it was something that was beautiful and that I knew it was set up out there. And this was something that I had guidance in all of this area. And if somebody ponders just the Sharia in and of itself, if someone really ponders it, they will see that the Sharia in and of itself is a miracle. Like nobody can come up with the Sharia with all of the guidelines that make sure everyone gets their rights. And of course, when somebody sees the perfection of the Sharia, how can they not want to defend it? And of course, of course, the liberal people and all of the people from out in the rest of the world that hate Allah and that hate His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they hate the guidance of, or they hate the fact that mankind is supposed to be submitted to their Creator. They hate this fact from the get-go. Of course, they're going to go at Islam and say this is terrible, Sharia, blah, 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 and they talk about all the terrible things. And they usually just pick out a couple of these laws here and there, and they pick out a couple of, and they'd say, look, this doesn't give people freedom of choice. You have the freedom to choose Islam or not, or not to choose Islam. If you are from outside Islam, you can choose it or you don't choose it. You came into Islam, okay, you're done. You need to be a Muslim until the end of time. Of course, you need to be a Muslim. Everyone's supposed to be a Muslim, but there's not going to be any compulsion in entering Islam. As opposed to once you're in Islam, of course, there's certain rules that you must abide by, and there's compulsion in that sense. But when it comes to entering Islam, you have a choice to enter Islam or not. Of course, you will be held accountable for that choice. There's no question about that. But there's definitely, people have that choice of freedom, but this freedom that is just freedom out there, that anyone can have any type of decision that they want to make, this type of freedom ultimately will encroach on everyone's freedom. It will ultimately not be freedom for this person, and it won't be freedom for the rest of the community as well. It's going to create a lot of oppression. So freedom always has its limits. If someone wants to have their freedom, so-called, there's always limits that this freedom can be in, and it can't be outside of these limits. And if someone wants true freedom, you will not find it unless you take the best route of expressing yourself. And this is, of course, the Creator knows what's best for you. So doing what the Creator has is going to give you the most fulfillment and the most happiness. And the freedom inside of the balance that He gave you is freedom that will actually give you what you are looking for in your life, and will satisfy the actual human nature that Allah has created us to be. And this is something that I've found for myself, of being outside trying to be free, hippie and whatnot, and then coming into Islam. Yes, there's rules and guidelines, but inside of this I have much more freedom than I would outside of that, like freedom with my own spirit. And this is because I'm guided into the right place in the right situation for me to express myself according to what is right between me and the Creator, and between me and the other people around me. And I understand where are my rights and where are their rights. And this is the most beautiful thing of Islam, is when somebody understands the Sharia in its totality, they understand this is the ayah. Like this is a miracle that no person could have thought up. Of course, think about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is illiterate. He wasn't someone who went to some law school and went and studied for how many years to study how to run a community and a society. No, this is not something. He was not of that type of person that even knew how to read or write. But yet you find him leading a nation. And the laws that came about from him, of course from wahi that came, but the laws that he brought in the principles that he brought and taught the people that came after him, this is a miracle in and of itself. Even if we say we don't have the Quran, say we don't have any of the miracles such as splitting the moon or these other miracles, just the Sharia in and of itself as a miracle, this is more than enough to prove that Islam is true and that Islam is the correct religion and the only religion that is out there. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.